Hi. I'm Arthur. And, okay, there is no putting it off anymore. I've more or less covered the basics of every other major faction of Xenos out there, so I might as well finish them up with the race I definitely like the least of the entire setting. But it's not just because Eldar lore is like the bread heel of 40k, it's the part we have to get past in order to get to the better parts that we actually want to get to read. You have to realize that the majority of the problems in this universe are specifically because of the Eldar. Now, if we go back past that, we can blame the old ones, but those are literally frogs, so who cares? Just leave them alone. Why do I specifically have beef with the Eldar? It's because they're elves. I know, a guy who likes dwarves does not like elves. Very, very original. But I feel I just never vibe with elven aesthetic. It never dinked my doink, if you catch my drift. The light, flowy, wispy, tree-loving bits of the wood elves. High elves are just the fucking worst. The pointy-ass helmets and spears and shit. Don't like elves. I fucking hate elves, if I'm being honest. Okay, I'm getting off track. Every time I've played a 40k game that the Eldar were included in, every single thing that goes wrong is because the Eldar think they know better, and instead of just warning us as to the real danger, they just, oh, we can't tell you that there is a chaos demon inside that thing you want to destroy. You just have to leave it alone and trust us. Which usually leads to every single space marine in a square kilometer basically saying, fuck you, I do what I want, and smashing it to pieces, followed by them chastising us about how we should have listened to their elders. Alright, listen to me, you knife-eared piece of shit. If you just let us know, we could have done something. We have the Inquisition. We have entire fucking task forces of people dedicated to destroying demons. But no, the secret is too dangerous and must not be tampered with. Sure, I guess Eldrad had one bad interaction with fucking Fulgrim of all people and now blames all of humanity on the suffering of the universe. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So if my impudent rage was not enough to inform you of what we are talking about, it's, space elves. The Eldar, technically. I'm referring to the Eldar as a race, but I'm more specifically referring to Craftworld Eldar. The Diet Coke of Eldar, if you will. So what is an Eldar? They are an ancient race created millions of years ago by the Old Ones. The Old Ones in this universe are essentially a myth, a frog, and a wizard at the same time. They just decided to fuck around with life and see what came out. So, the Eldar, the Necron, the Orcs are all created, or at least the prototypes of what they were created. These individuals had their strife, had their grievances. The Necron rebelled against the Old Ones, and the Old Ones decided to, like, die, or some shit. I don't think it's ever explained what happened, but the Necron used star gods called the Satan to murder the Old Ones, and they kinda won, which was this whole affair called the War in Heaven. The Eldar made it out okay, and when the war was over, they just decided to celebrate and party. Since Eldar are functionally immortal at this point, they decide to invest in entertainment. Then, they just kept investing in entertainment, and so on and so forth. Then, cue the ungodly blood murder orgies with magic, super coke, and every debased behavior you could ever imagine. And all of this together made it so that a god was birthed. That god was Slaanesh. And with the birth of Slaanesh came the death of like 99% of the Eldar gods' pantheon. As Slaanesh ate them, there is still pieces of Calem and Chicane. Yanid is kind of around, but not really. Kegarak, which is my favorite god of the Eldar pantheon. Then you have Isha. Jesus Christmas, I wish Isha was dead. Isha probably wishes Isha was dead too. But I digress again. So with most Eldar gods dead, the only person to claim their souls was fucking Slaanesh, meaning whenever an Eldar dies, Slaanesh just gets them. Which sucks from what I've heard. There was a lot of time in between involving the Eldar discovering how to prolong their lives in case of them, like, dying. See, before you could just reach into the ethereal Empyrean and just pluck a soul out and bring it back to the body, or just make a new body. But now reaching into the hereafter involves saying hi to the big purple feller, which again, kinda sucks from what I've heard. Depending on which Eldar you are dealing with, the way they kinda circumvent this is either through spirit stones, which can absorb the spirit of an Eldar and hold them indefinitely, and sometimes you can put them in these cute little bone monstrosities known as Wraithlords, or Wraithguard if you aren't cool enough to be a lord. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that, and I know Harlequins are a bit more weird than just Spirit Stone shenanigans, but eventually the Eldar were divided into 3 major groups, and a bunch of mini ones, with a 4th group springing up pretty recently. So the 3 groups are divided into the Craftworld Eldar, the Dark Eldar, also known as the Drukhari, and the Harlequins. There are remixes and variances on this, don't get me started on the Exodites. For now, the ones you have to concern yourself with are essentially the Craftworld Eldar, which are the Eldar that believe they need to regain their past honor, the honor that exists before the debauchery that birthed the Dark God. They used the bones of their dead god Kala Mensha Kane and created living spaceships that can grow to the size of planets, thus the Craftworlds. They are the most abstinent of all the Eldar, and end up being puritanical know-it-alls in terms of how they see other races. Then you have the Dark Eldar, which are currently referred to as the Drukhari. They believed that there's nothing wrong with blending people into applesauce foot first. For some reason, they realized that causing suffering around them prevents Slaanesh from claiming their souls. So they just do that. Torture and torture and torture. For some reason, they also get super jazzed when they do something horrible. These dudes have weird monster aliens as sidekicks. They have mercenaries, and sometimes they just end up working with people, like us. Dark Eldar raiders tend to capture slaves in order to do those torture sessions that prolong their lives, but they also have a weird system where they regrow bodies and their spirits in vats if they die from a single skin cell if they needed to. This is overseen by these fleshmongers, these scientists known as homunculus. I like the Drukhari a lot, definitely significantly more than every other variant of Eldar, and that is probably because they have the lowest percentage of Eldar per army than other Eldar armies. Then you have the Harlequins, which worship the god of memes and trickery, Kegarak. We don't know much about them, and they have like 5 units in-game, maybe 6, but I think they're neat. Still elves, but like clowncore elves, which is better than elves. Now, I mentioned there's a 4th group, but there might as well not be. Essentially, many different tragedies in this universe have caused the members of Bealtan, which is a craft world, if you couldn't figure that out, to destroy the craft world they were on. The destruction of said craft world awoke a new god, the god of death, Ynit. Sort of. They have a tangible link to Ynit and rally many other sects of the Eldar under this banner, so technically all 3 groups of Eldar can work together under this specific banner of Ynit. These are called the Ynnari, and it is not as significant as you'd think. The discussion on the Ynnari and how much of a wet fart they were in lore is for another time, but just know that they are essentially a mixture of all the different versions of the Eldar. Before I wrap up, I just want to make my point clear. I don't personally hate elves. I joke about it, but I think it's because people often pigeonhole themselves into writing for elves in such a way that I can predict every single facet of their character before I even know their name. Usually elves, due to the precedent that Warhammer and Tolkien have set, are divided into the 3 to 4 groupings of high elves, wood elves, dark elves, and the other. All of these elves are known to be arrogant and incredibly obnoxious to non-elves. They believe in elven superiority and, for some reason, have a lot of weirdly monkey-based insults towards humans. I get it, GW, you were being cute in the 90s with the Eldar calling us Monkey, but it's not funny anymore, at least to me. It honestly takes me out of the lore when I'm reading a book and an Eldar refers to us as a monkey. But Mr. Bones, they are actually referring to us as the name of another alien race that was known for being super brutish. They're just calling us savages. Bro, the straw man joke was done to death years ago by Major Kill. That's kind of cringe. But, for real, it is a point to be made that, yeah, Monkey is actually a race of ultra-dangerous super brutes. They are making fun of us for being a brute race. Yes, that would be interesting if they weren't written by people who knew what the fuck they were doing. Monkey is a bad name, and when a writer puts it in the book, it just makes me feel like they're winking at me going, huh? Get it? Because brute monkey alien race? We're silly brutes and also monkeys? Eh? Eh?
Sir, I have an inquiry for you. Does it make you feel big? Huh? Saying the thing that you already know we're all thinking? I am on this stupid ride for another hour and 20 minutes, and I'd rather not be reminded of how bad of a fucking time I'm gonna have!
The thing that always floors me is they do the arrogant super race thing wrong every time. Because the Eldar are so often wrong about withholding information or basic info that it loops back around to them coming off as idiots. Are any of you fans of Eldrad? Good. Take a seat. I want you to be comfortable, perfectly situated, and 100% prepared to just be fucking offended. I finished the Fulgrim book. This Fulgrim book, not that Fulgrim book. I thought the book had some okay moments, but it was serviceable at best for me. But the thing that stuck out to me is simply how dumb Eldrad was. He is a part of Craftworld Ulthwé, and pretty significant to the setting if I may be honest with you. For those of you who don't know, let me set the scene for you. The slowly corrupted legion of Marines, known as the Emperor's Children, are pretty far down the Slaanesh pipeline. The decks of their main ship look like that one scene from Event Horizon, to put it bluntly. Eldrad organized a meeting with them to have a peaceful discourse about warning them of the threat of chaos. They wanted to tell them that Horus Lupercal was going to betray them, and that chaos is the worst enemy ever. But they can't know about it, they just have to trust the Eldar. Meanwhile, the entirety of the Emperor's Children, a purple, pink, gold, covered in decorative gems, have radical body modifications and resemble a generic Slaaneshi cult by now, are just staring at them in plain view. But Eldrad couldn't tell that they were at least a little touched by Slaanesh until after Fulgrim tried to kill him and ended up killing a fucking Avatar of Cain. Now, before any of you scholars say anything, the demonic presence that was slowly infecting Fulgrim hid his corrupted presence in the future of Fulgrim from Eldrad. And that's about it. He couldn't tell from just looking at them that the risk was there and not worth it. I can't convey to you in words that humans could understand how absolutely brain-dead stupid this is. I can only convey it through like primordial apish screams. You have to convince one of the major sects of the Imperium that there's going to be some kind of fall. Okay, why pick the ones that are bright purple and gold? You know that those are Slaanesh's colors. It doesn't even make sense. Even if there's like an 80%, 99% chance that they're not corrupted, just pick the blue guys. Why not? They seem pretty stoic. Pick the yellow guys. They seem like they don't give a shit about sensation of any kind. Not an artistic bone in their body. But you pick the ones that you can tell obviously have a thing for body glitter and decoration. You just don't think? Okay, cool. Fantastic. I'm not mad about this. Even the Space Marines, not even knowing about chaos on the planet of the lair, could see that there was something wrong before they even got to the lair temple. This shit just sucks. It doesn't have to be this way. Elves don't always have to be hoisted by their own petard, use bows and arrows, and have pointy helmets. Look at the Lumineth Realm Lords. They have hammers and shit. That's a change, I guess? But I think the writing of the Eldar and the way they are conceptualized is marred by the past tropes and trappings of every piece of elven fiction out there. They all have to be elves, so we can't just not write them like elves. I think the Wraith Lords are super cool, but that is a concept that can only be stretched so far. Now, I'm going to break down the major categories of Eldar in the future, but for now, this is a rough overview of the discourse and the absolute unyielding rage I feel towards the Eldar, kind of wrapped up in a neat little bow. That is just me like always. What do you think about the Space Elves? I don't feel any ounce of shame in admitting I despise the majority of them, but I don't hold it against people for wanting to play them or enjoying their lore. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you especially love the elves, you should totally subscribe so I can break the conditioning years of anime has done to the majority of you. Alongside that, I would like to thank my channel members for keeping me fed on a diet consisting entirely of Guinness and rocks, and if you want to see all of my content early or even get access to exclusive content, then become a channel member. Before I go, I will openly say, dwarves are better. They will always be better. I like rocks. I love rocks. Big rocks. Small rocks, shiny rocks, and before anyone asks, weirdly enough, I never have played Deep Rock Galactic until after I got into the Leagues of Votann. It's kind of neat how things line up, yeah?